Good day everyone, it's Graham from Great Off-Road Adventures and welcome back to another video. Now in this video here I'm going to talk to you about all things power. Now we have a dual battery system in the car and an auxiliary battery set up in the camper trailer. That's not what I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about portable power stations. This one being the EcoFlow River Pro. So basically, let's get into how the EcoFlow works. And then I'll explain to you why it is that it's so handy for Jess and I. From the tough tracks to the remote tracks, from our campsites to the workshops. Come along and check out Great Off-Road Adventures. Your next episode is just seconds away. Nice. I'm sure as you're wondering, given that we've got a dual battery in the car and an auxiliary battery in the camper, why and how we ended up with the EcoFlow River Pro. Now in complete transparency, EcoFlow reached out to me. They actually offered it to me to try out and test. No obligations beyond that. And so I took them up on the offer. Now I've been testing it for a couple months and so far it's going really well. I'm going to talk to you about how it works, its features, why Jess and I have it, because, you know, like I said, we do have a dual battery in the car and a battery in the camper. It would seem, you know, sort of like we're doubling up, but it has its place. And I've learned recently that it actually has its place. It's very handy to have. And then we'll go through some of the pros and cons that we found with it from there. So basically, let's get into it. We'll start with specifications first. Well, before we get into how we use the EcoFlow River Pro when we go off-grid, let's run through the specifications on it. Now, this here is the smallest portable power station that you can get from EcoFlow, and it's nice and lightweight, it's pretty compact, and it also packs a lot of power and a lot of functionality. So it features a flashlight, it features a USB-C 100-watt charging point, 2 traditional USB charging points, USB-As, and a USB-A fast charging point. Also a 12-volt plug, 2 DC pin outputs, as well as 2 AC outputs. It is 720 watt hours, which basically you divide that by 12, it gives you it in amp hours. It's basically 60 amp hours. And it has a 600 watt inverter built into it, with a surge capability of 1200 watts. So that's your initial startup surge. You can't run 1200 watt appliances, but you can certainly run appliances up to 600 watts on it. You can charge it off the car, off of solar, or off of AC power, making it a pretty portable and diverse little setup. Its actual weight, I'm not sure on. Maybe it'll say somewhere here, but I'm putting this at under 8 kilos for weight. Its actual footprint and dimensions is pretty small. It's smaller than a 100 amp hour battery. It's about that 80 amp hour battery sort of size. You'd think, you know, given that we've got dual battery systems in the car and auxiliary batteries in the trailer, why do we need one of these? Well, I'm going to explain that to you now. So how do we use the EcoFlow River Pro? Basically, for us, it served a couple purposes. We got it so that it would act as a redundancy for a system failure in the car or in the camper trailer. And it has enough power to basically run either one of our fridges over night time. Then we can obviously start the car, run the fridge off of the car, and recharge the EcoFlow so that we can draw down on it over night time again. The other thing, obviously, with it having AC power is it acts as a redundancy for the inverter in the car. If the inverter in the car was to die and we couldn't charge any of our camera gear, we can charge our camera gear with it. And also it allows us that flexibility. We do a little bit of media ourselves away from YouTube for clients and that sort of thing. It allows me the capability to take Jess's car to a job and still be able to charge my camera gear whilst I'm there, being that it's built-in battery, inverter, everything all in one. It's super handy in that regard. That's basically the redundancy side of things, but it also brings additional functionality to our camping and that sort of thing as well. Being that it's so lightweight and so portable, we can basically move it around and have power anywhere that we need. So for instance, this weekend, we camped up about 25 metres from the Wellington Dam, and we've got a water pump for our hot water showers. And I don't have a 25 metre lead to power that water pump from my camper, but I've got an EcoFlow and I can just take it down there, plug the water pump in, and off she goes. Happy days. Now, around the camper trailer or that sort of thing, this weekend I've also been doing a bit of work. I've been working on the laptop. I've been able to charge my camera gear. Obviously, as you know, I love my time lapses. They're a certain hobby of mine and something I take great delight in, both challenging myself with shooting the perfect time lapse, but obviously I also enjoy all the feedback I get from you guys who watch them. So I can use the EcoFlow. I can take it over with my DSLR, set it up on a tripod, and obviously this has a much bigger battery than the little battery in my DSLR. Allows me to shoot much longer time lapses and just do a whole lot more cool stuff with my cameras. So in that regard, having it so portable, that's really its biggest benefit for Jess and I. Portable power anywhere that we need it. You know, I've been able to sit here with the camper trailer and work on my laptop this weekend. I've done probably a good 4 or 5 hours on my laptop, editing some videos, doing bits and pieces like that. It's run the water pump all weekend. And if I have a quick look at it, it's only at 68% charge. So we've used about 30% for a whole weekend. And that is super handy. It's super easy to use. Basically, each section on it is broken down with, there's a master on-off switch, and then basically you've got on-off switches for each little section that you need to utilize. So if I was going to use AC power, there's an on-off switch here on the side to turn on the AC power. If I need to use the DC outlets, I'll turn on the DC outlets. If I need to use the light, I'll turn on the light. So that's how Jess and I use the EcoFlow River Pro. Now let's get into the pros and cons of it. Let's start with the pros and we'll finish with the cons. Now, obviously the pros are, this thing is so light. As you've seen me do a few times, I can basically hang it off my little finger. It's about that 80 amp hour battery sort of size. And bear in mind, it's 60 amp hours of lithium battery. So you actually have quite a lot of usable capacity there. And it's packing a 600 watt inverter on top of it. So for that to be compressed into such a small footprint is very impressive. It does have an expansion port, and you can get an expansion battery if you need more capability or capacity, I should say. And so, yeah, it's pretty good. Those, you know, they make up the short list of the pros. The other pros is that it basically has all the common connectors that you would ever come across. 12 volt, USBs, DC outlets. I guess the only thing that it's missing is an Anderson plug. That being said, if you needed to, you could do an Anderson plug to a DC adapter, provided you're not planning on drawing too many amps. The other pros that the EcoFlow has is, as I've spoken to you about before, as to why we have it and what we use it for. The fact that it has 60 amp hours of battery, so it offers us a redundancy for either of our battery systems should one of them fail. And it has the inverter. It offers us a redundancy should the inverter in the car fail, so we can continue to charge our camera gear. The other pro to talk about is the charging. Now, the charging on the EcoFlow River Pro, if you charge it from a AC power point at home, basically you can charge it from 0 to 80% in an hour, and in about an hour and a half, it's fully charged. So it's super fast charging. That's particularly handy. Yeah, it can't charge as fast in the car or on solar, but it is handy that, you know, if the need arises, we can utilize solar and or the car to charge it up, being a part of that redundancy sort of thing as well. You know, its construction's really robust. It feels solid. You know, there's no gaps where the plastic or anything's been joined. So I certainly have got peace of mind. I'm pretty happy with it. Now, as for the cons, the only con that I can think of is the fact that it's something else we have to bring with us, but it's a small price to pay given it's got a pretty small footprint for that redundancy and peace of mind. The other con is that it's not a waterproof unit. Obviously, a lot of these plug points on the front, the USB plug points and stuff, they are open, they're not protected. So I wouldn't leave this out overnight if it was dewy. I wouldn't leave it out if it was a sprinkling or anything like that. So those occasions where I utilize it with my camera, I do need to be mindful of that and not leave this out. Whilst I've left my camera out overnight time, when it's gotten wet and dewy and whatnot, I wouldn't want to leave this out. Well, the only other thing to add is it's not necessarily a con, but bear in mind we've only had this EcoFlow River Pro for a couple months. So as for its longevity and that sort of thing, can't really comment on that. So I'm sure if it gives us issues down the line, I'll let you know. But I will just add it there, that little disclaimer that we have only had it for a short while. So can't really speak too much on its longevity. But as for its construction and all of that, yeah, it's solid and it looks well built. So in that regard, I'm pretty happy with it. The other feature to talk about is the very user-friendly app that EcoFlow has developed. It gives you full remote control of each section of the River Pro, and in the settings you can adjust all the charge rates and other bits and pieces of the River Pro so you can truly optimize it for your setup. The app's very user-friendly and it is very easy to download and get set up and connected to the River Pro. So that's a big win in my books. Now, of course, the last thing we need to talk about is, of course, the price. At the time of making this video, to get yourself an EcoFlow River Pro, it would cost you $1,399 Australian. Now, given the list of features and that sort of thing, it basically at that price puts it fairly squarely in the middle of the market when compared to similar portable power stations. As a consumer, of course, you guys have to work out, is that a price that you're prepared to pay or not? And of course, then you can move the price where you like to the pros or to the cons. So that basically wraps up the pros and the cons. And on that note, basically wraps up the video. Now, if you want to find out more information, then jump over to the EcoFlow website. There's a link in the description below. That'll take you there to this product and you can have a look at it yourselves. Anyway, happy, safe adventuring. Stay safe on the tracks and trails. Hopefully one day we get to see you out here camping. If not, we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.